Hey everyone, it's Keeley here for Soy and Shea, and thank you so much for joining me for today's video where we are doing a Patreon design soap challenge. For this month, I asked my patrons to name up to 2 additives that I could include in a soap. These additives must make sense together. They can't be so extreme that you'd wonder why you'd put them in the soaps together. And I also asked them to be budget conscious, because sometimes additives can really bump up the price of a soap, and sometimes they really don't add that much in. They are just really interesting to play with. Now, I put all the suggestions into a soapy jug, and the one that came out was from Tanya, who runs Purple Yang, and I have left links to her business down below. Hopefully I have pronounced it right. Tanya wanted me to use freeze-dried raspberry powder and some Australian pink clay. Now, I did have a look for freeze-dried raspberry powder, and it's not cheap. It's not particularly easy to get hands on where I am, and it was not cheap. But I did find a spray-dried raspberry powder instead. So I'm going to be using this. It has got an absolutely stunning color, so it'll be really interesting to see whether or not this color stays in soap, what it does and things like that. I did a little bit of looking into it. It does say that because of the high sugar content of raspberries, that color can really intensify in soap, so we'll see what actually happens. I'm also expecting it to leave a little bit of a exfoliating feel throughout the powder, because this is probably water soluble and we're adding it into oils instead. And then the Australian pink clay, I've actually got 2 tubs of pink clay. I'm almost out of one of my tubs, and I'd ordered in a new tub, and when I opened up the new tub, I noticed it was a little bit darker than my first tub, so I'm using the darker of my Australian pink clays. For a little while there, it went really light in color and just did absolutely nothing. So it's nice to see that we've been able to find that Australian pink clay with enough of that iron oxide in it to give it that beautiful pink color. So I'm going to use some of that. And I did learn from my builder soap that I did a few weeks ago to use a good amount. So I've actually upped the amount of clay that I would normally use in a soap, and we'll see if we can get that pink to hold from the clay, and we'll see what this raspberry powder does too. Let's go and make our Raspberry Fields soap. Let's go. Okay, so we are ready to go. I've got everything to the correct temperature, hopefully. We are now in winter here in Australia, and it does change the sort of temperatures and the way that you need to soap with the slightly cooler days. I usually find I have to warm my oils up just a little bit more than I do in summer. Let's get our oil and lye mixed together. Right, I have literally just brought that to emulsion, if that. The reason being is because we're adding in these clays and powders that are going to take that little bit more mixing to get them to combine. I don't want to take this too far towards trace, so that we don't end up with a really thick soap. Now, I'm actually going to pour off 2 pots here, as you can see. I am going to make this into one of the Clay-Tanicals soaps, so that means that I'm using natural colorants and essential oils in them. But I do want to try and get a nice little swirl going through here. Into my big pot, I have got my Australian pink clay. You can see this batch has got a beautiful pink hue to it. At one point, the pink clay just didn't seem to have any color to it at all, so it's nice to see it with that sort of tinge again. Now, in this container here, I have got that raspberry powder. Doesn't that look beautiful? I'm going to pour just a small amount into this pot, and then pour the rest into that pot, and we will get these mixed in. Now, when I'm mixing the clay, to make sure that it mixes in fairly well, I'm bringing my stick blender up and capturing that clay underneath it and then giving it a pulse, and that just helps to disperse it. If you just try mixing it, it takes a lot longer to get. If I just went mixing to try and get all this in, it takes longer to get that clay to incorporate. Alright, that has incorporated well. Let's see what this raspberry powder does. Now, I clearly have not put enough in that one. So I've just poured a little bit more out, and I'm going to pop it into that container because I really don't want that, whatever color that's meant to be. I wanted a pale pink. That's better. All right, so let's get that scraped off. And I have discovered not having a cord on it, I need to actually stand it up on its end. All right, let's get this scraped off. All right, I'm fairly happy with how they're looking, so let's get our essential oil blend in. I have got an orange 5-fold. You do need to use folded orange to try and get them to stay in your soap mixes, otherwise it flashes off too much. There's a bit of Palmarosa, some let's say Cabeba or Mei Chang, and some patchouli in there as well. The patchouli just helps to anchor the orange, the Palmarosa, and the Mei Chang. Mei Chang's pretty good at anchoring as well, but it is there to really help anchor it. So it's only just a small amount, so it doesn't come through too much. But oh, that does smell really good. It was quite an orange blend of essential oils, so hopefully the pink can cope with that. But really pleased with how that is smelling. It's really hard when you do want to do a fruity style of soap in an essential oil blend to get a really nice fruity smell. But I think, yeah, the orange that's in here does kind of really come through, but it smells very sweet because of the other oils that are in with it. But really pleased with how that is looking. Let's see what all that orange color does to that pink clay. Well, I should have thought about that before making up that blend, but oh, it smells really good. Really definitely smells good. So it does have a slight sweetness to this blend, but it really does have that sort of bramble smell. I remember as a child, and I miss it so much, and every time I see a bush here, I get really, really happy and excited. I remember as a child walking through the fields in England, and you used to have all the brambles and all the berries and everything, and you used to just be able to walk along and pick blackberries and raspberries off the bush and eat them. You used to go and find the fields where the cars weren't close to them because you didn't really want all the exhaust fumes over your berries. But if you could find a field that had a raspberry or a blackberry bush in it, oh, I was so happy. I would just sit there and eat those berries. I have actually found a raspberry cane here on one of our walks that I do with Pepper, and it's a fair way back off the roadside, so it doesn't get all the fumes and everything. And when that comes into flower and fruit, I tend to make Pepper stop. Well, she makes me stop everywhere, but I tend to make her stop so I can pick the raspberries off the bush. But it's got that sort of the more of the natural foresty sort of vine smell, if that makes sense, not the sweet raspberry that you get as a fragrance. But really loving how this is coming together. Let's pour these in, and then we'll see if we can go for a curly whirly. I will keep some of this back to try and do a bit of a top, but I think the colors may be a little bit too similar right now, but they could change while they saponify. We'll see what happens. Let's get that lighter one in. A few air bubbles came up in that. Absolutely love this stick blender that Lee has given to me, but I have noticed I do get more air bubbles in my soap. So stick blenders do play a huge role in how your soaps behave. Let's get that all scraped out. I'm going to put that into the middle of my table here where it's a little bit flatter, and grab, I know you can't see what I'm doing, I'm just grabbing a couple of little things just to prop under the end to push the soap level. All right, let's get these buckets scraped out. And then, because this is a Clay-Tanicals soap, and the idea behind these is to allow the ingredients to actually speak, we're not going to get too fancy with the top. We'll probably maybe go and find a spoon. We'll see what the color looks like on the top of it. I don't think it's going to be worth doing a chopstick swirl pattern. I think we might just go for a spoon top, but it is smelling really good. Let me get these buckets all cleared out. All right, so I've left this just for a couple of minutes. It is setting up quite nicely, and I'm just going to do a very, very simple spoon top like so across the top. And as I suspected, yeah, the colours at this stage are not too unique from each other. Let's come back across this way. I don't want to make it too pointy on the top, because sometimes I find with my clay tanicles, people actually really do like that they are flat. But I'm pretty pleased with how that's coming up. I don't know why. I see so many people do spoon tops and they make it look so easy. And yet for me, doing a spoon top swirl is so hard. And this end seems to be setting up differently to the other end. Anyway, I'm not going to play with that too much. I am just going to give it a bit of a wiggle down that way, because I can see that this is up high, that dips, and then that comes up high again. So let's just go like that. All right, we're going to leave that. It was set up overnight. We'll come back shortly and we'll have a look at the inside and see if that raspberry powder has changed color. All right, it is the next day and we're going to cut into our raspberry fields. You can see the top does look a little bit different to how it was when we left off yesterday. As I picked up my raspberry powder from off of the bench, it fluffed up and out the package and sprinkled across the top of the soap. So I just decided that I would sprinkle some more over it. I have noticed overnight, I've been looking at it because it's got a really funny color. And I was concerned it had gone moldy, but it hasn't actually gone moldy. Just where it's actually interacted with, as this saponifies, the water, which does have some lye in it, evaporates out the top of the soap, and it has actually just interacted and it's made it go a little bit purple. So that's been really, really interesting. I'm going to cut through the soap here and we'll see what we've got. I'm not convinced that we're going to have really nice deep pink swirls just because of the way that this is discolored just on the top. And yes, I'm very much right. There are no pretty pink swirls. It has completely and utterly lost its color. That is such a shame, but it does still have those sugars in it from off of that raspberry powder. So that's going to really enhance, oh, this is a bit sticky. It's going to really enhance the lather. Such a shame because there's some beautiful, beautiful, beautiful swirls going on in this soap here. But we've got the benefits of having that pink clay in here, so it's going to be a beautiful soap to actually use. Just unfortunately, we don't have any bright pink. So if you've been thinking about using that raspberry powder to get a nice bright pink, I don't think it's gonna happen. But oh, such a shame, because there are some beautiful, beautiful swirls. And you can actually see where some of those swirls have used more of the powder than what the other one did. Well, I can see it through the naked eye. So up here it's slightly lighter than what it is down and around here. And so I'm going to say that the sort of lighter swirl is where we had less of the raspberry powder in it. Why is this so sticky today? But it does look really good. Just unfortunately, we don't have those beautiful pink swirls. So that is a shame. But as I said, we do have those benefits of having the pink clay in here. I love the color the pink clay has gone. That's come up really, really nice. And we do have all those sugars from off that raspberry in here as well. So I will be popping this one over onto the cure rack. I will give updates of this on my socials when it is ready to see if anything else does happen with the color. You know, some really crazy things happen with soap. We could actually find that as it cures, the pink could pop out. I highly doubt it, but it might. So I will be posting final pictures of it on my website and on socials once it is all cured. And if I've got enough time on this video and I remember to do it, I do have these end pieces where I can do a little sampler if I remember to do that before this one is edited. We'll wait and see. All right, it has been 4 weeks since I made the Raspberry Fields soap, and it is time to do a lather test. Now you can see that we did not get that beautiful pink come through from off that raspberry powder. It did stay that cream, but it looks really nice in the big bars with all these beautiful swirls. There are tiny, tiny little patches of pink throughout it, but yeah, pretty much the color didn't come back. It does smell really good, so it's not got the sweetness that you would expect from a raspberry, but more so the raspberry canes themselves. But we are going to do a little bit of a lather test to see what the sugars and things will actually do for our soap. You can see we're already getting a beautiful lather from off it. So let's get a little bit more going. Oh, it feels really nice as well, but we're getting a beautiful bubbly, creamy lather from it. My soap recipe does produce a lot of bubbles, but they do tend to be these sort of finer, sort of silkier bubbles that you get off it. And this is just, it feels really nice, and it is producing a much better bubbly lather than what my soap typically does by itself. So the raspberry powder certainly has added something into the soap, which I'm really happy about. I'm really, really pleased with the bubbles on here. It's like, whenever you get bubbles, it's like you become a kid again and you just have to play with them. But there it is. That is the Raspberry Fields soap all done up. I hope you've enjoyed coming along with me as I made this soap. If you did, why not leave me a thumbs up, any comments down below. And until the next video comes out, I hope you have a good one, and I will see you then. Bye.